Welcome to Goalie Science, the podcast that bridges the gap between goaltending, science, and peak performance. I'm your host, Jamie Phillips, a former professional goalie, currently pursuing a doctorate in physical therapy and specializing in goalie performance coaching. Joining me as always is Dr. Ben Cernick, a seasoned goalie coach and sports analytics specialist. Whether you find yourself at home, on the road, or at the rink, grab a cup of your favorite beverage and let's drop the puck on this week's episode.
Jamie, what are we talking about today?
I don't know. I'm just so used to you going, "Ooh, welcome to Goalie Science," and then I just kind of like, can just start? It's like, yeah, we made a sweet intro. We are back. We took a week hiatus. I took a week hiatus, so I will take full responsibility. So my car stopped working, like completely, 100% stopped. Did not turn over. Battery died. Kaput. Had to get it AAA to tow it. Was a very expensive repair bill and decided that it wasn't worth it, so I had to go get another vehicle. So the worst part is I was actually considering having Ben on the payroll, but the money I spent
that would have been
on Ben's salary had to go to the car. So if you're listening or watching, please subscribe to my Patreon so that I can get Ben on the payroll.
That was about to be my plug too. So I want to say, yeah, in light of this news, if you're not already a platinum Jamie Phillips subscriber, you need to be now. It's honestly irresponsible not to be. Help Jamie live is what I always say.
And then I did have a 7-hour tattoo appointment, which I actually had scheduled months ago, so I couldn't cancel it. And that's why I wasn't able to record. So we do apologize, but you know what? We did need, it's been a year, almost a year of consistent pods. Yeah. And you know, we will try to bank more episodes. Also, the cool thing about this car is it has Apple CarPlay, which is new because my car I was driving before was built, it's like a Flintstones vehicle. It didn't have any amenities. So it has Apple CarPlay, which for me is a big deal. I know for everyone else it's owned a car in the last 20 years. This is nothing new, but it has a Zoom app on it. So we can maybe record pods while I'm driving to work. Without the camera, obviously, just kind of like having a phone call. So our video will be kind of crap, but the audio will be good.
Most importantly, if anyone's listening who does police enforcement, it's not distracted driving. We promise.
We promise. It's all hands.
And also, we don't promote that here. We don't promote distracted driving here.
No, I'm a big like anti-distracted driving guy. Like you'll know, like sometimes if I get like a text or something, I never text back, or it's strictly voice note, or I just say, call me. And I'm a big, no, I do not text when I drive.
Sure. Right. Which is a really nice transition, which leads us into what we're talking about today, which is rebound control.
Super. Yeah, absolutely.
We're working on segues later. It's a new year. But Jamie, we've been talking about doing an episode on rebound control for a long time now. Because it is, at least in my experience, it is one of the biggest things that kids, parents, coaches, professional, college, junior, minor hockey goalies, everyone talks about rebound control. And I'm not always sure we're talking about the same thing. And so I wanted to try to get us on the same page. And then I wanted us to dive into our philosophy around what we think leads to good or bad rebound control, what we think good or bad rebound control is. And then I also want to do a little bit on like some realities surrounding the topic. And what I mean by that is certain situations, the rebound is not something we're always focusing on, but rather it's going to happen sometimes. So let's go into it first, Jamie. I want you to give me or outline what you think one rebound control is, but then like what leads in, what actually is the components of a goalie having good or bad rebound control.
Okay, there is a lot to deconstruct here. I kind of, now that even though we've had this topic kind of queued up for a while, I really do wish that I thought about my definition of rebound control, because I haven't. I don't have a solid definition because it's very, very, very nuanced. Well, I sort of like most things, I usually like to give my perspective with a story. So I think, which I will lead into a second, but for me, rebound control and to the common zeitgeist or among goalie coaches when it comes to explaining rebound control, or the importance of rebound control, is I find that it's often over exaggerated, or it's used kind of as a way to if you don't have anything to say about something, you kind of use it as, I don't want to say cop out, but use it as a quick win. You know, if you you know, say your goalie's having a good session and there's nothing to say, and you kind of like, I need to say something, and they pop out a rebound to the slot, you're like, ball, control your rebounds, like, well, and it gives you something to say. And so, but I do think that's super duper detrimental, and we'll get into that. But the reason I had the story is I skated with a U14 AAA girl goalie Monday, and she's really good technically, really, really, really good. And this is my first time skating with her, and because he was so good, admittedly, I was shooting a little harder than her age group, but you know, I kind of wanted to score some goals too. And I was positioned just inside the dot lane, so like a really good scoring opportunity. And I told her, I was like, we were working on like shoulder rotation stuff. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to go bar down here. And I want you to rotate your shoulder, and you're on your knees. So chances are, like, I'm going to beat you on a few, but I want you to just get that feeling. And she was doing a great job of it. But then all of a sudden, one hit her shoulder and bounced out to the slot. And she got so mad at herself. And I was just like, I was almost taken aback. I was like, why are you so upset? She's like, did you see that rebound? I said, yeah. I'm the only guy here. Of course I saw it. And she's like, I'm like, well, why are you upset with that? She's like, it's right in the slot. I'm like, and? She's like, that's a bad rebound. And I obviously queued myself up to explain, like, why is this a bad rebound? But she's like, well, the other goalie coach I skate with yells at me when I put rebounds in the slot. And I had to be like, look, other goalie coaches can do whatever they want. That's their style. But I am stationary in the slot. I'm a 30-year-old male, and you are a 14-year-old girl, and I am trying to go bar down. And you just made a really good save off the tip of your shoulder, and that rebound just happened to go in front of you, which means your shoulders are coming forward, which is exactly what I want. And it's the rebound, and your head and your eyes track the rebound. The point of the story is people, coaches, or I think maybe it's also like, you know, you listen to it, and it comes back to our beef with like hockey announcers, where every time there's a rebound, they always say, oh, it's a horrible rebound. But when in grade A scoring chances, so like all the things in the slot, in the house, however you want to call it, your priority isn't controlling the rebound. Your priority is to make the save. You need to make the save off the first shot, especially when it's a high opportunity, like a grade A plus, whatever you want to rank it shots. And another one too is things through like traffic are so hard to see and so hard to stop that your priority isn't to control your rebound or forcefully push your rebound. And we'll talk about that, forcefully push your rebound somewhere safe, quote unquote, because you can't. Because you actually cannot do that. You cannot consciously make the save and make a conscious effort to put it in the corner when the shots are that tight. And so this is where we get really frustrated. And we had a really good conversation with Boosh about this over text, but it's understanding that there are different quality shots, and there are times that you actually can control your rebound, and I expect you to, like shots, really anything kind of outside the top of the circles without screens or the blue lines. Yes, I expect you to kind of control your rebounds, but things that are scoring chances, give yourself a break. Focus on stopping the puck.
Jamie, I'm super happy you spent 5 minutes there not answering any of the questions I led you with. That's Jamie Phillips special, everyone.
I'm very good at that.
But yeah, I'm okay. So Jamie, I love all that. I agree with everything you said. I'm gonna peel you back a little bit here, and I'm gonna actually talk about the first thing that I was hoping
the definition.
Back. Yeah, right. So when we think about rebound control, it is a goalie's ability to very much, again, deal with the sequence after the initial shot, right? And that can be, again, by not allowing a rebound out. That can be by putting a puck away from a dangerous area. Those are all things we call good rebound control, right? Putting pucks in non-dangerous areas after an initial save, right? That is rebound control, first and foremost.
I agree with that.
The ability to eliminate or control a rebound, right? But I think you went in right away, right into the deals right away, is that not every shot is created equally in the realm of rebound, right? So that's one of the first topics that I want to talk about. I'm happy you did, which is, there are situations where, a shot from the point, like you mentioned, a clear shot from the point, you should probably be able to handle that comfortably, if you're a proficient goalie most times, if not all the time. Shot from the slot, like you said, we're a lot less concerned about the rebound. That's actually, in some regards, in some situations, if the shot's close enough, you're not even really reacting, or not fully reacting to the puck. You're more so picking up the release and then making a small adjustment. It's pretty impressive when a goalie has a really good rebound, quote unquote, off that. But a lot of the time that's because of how they read the play rather than actually watching the puck, if that makes sense, right? Like if you make a goalie make the blocker save and puts it perfectly in the corner on a one-timer and slot, it's a great job by them. But that could have equally just come right back out, depending on how quickly they're talking about, right? So
yeah, I think it's funny you say that too, because everyone thinks rebound control is putting something in the corner. What happens when there's a battle going on right beside you on the goal line if you put it off your blocker into the other team, like right on their stick, who is on the goal line? That's a bad rebound, but based on some definitions of putting in the corner, it's technically a good rebound. So also in that rebound, like you said, that definition is away from danger, and sometimes away from danger.
That's why it's
like straight up the slot too.
Yeah, the classic like blocker punch it out of the middle out of your own zone sometimes, and you don't. A lot of the time, that's not necessarily always conscious, but it is something that you can do, right? Especially with some of the new blockers, equipment-wise, pucks just explode off some. Like a fresh Bauer blocker, a puck explodes off that thing.
Such a good feeling. Such a good feeling.
Yeah, it's crazy. But okay, so we have the idea now. We have a framework.
Yes.
We understand that there's nuance around it. Like there's, depending on where the shot comes from, a rebound control, depending on where the danger is in your zone, good rebound control is differently. But you mentioned it before that it gets used as kind of this cop-out thing, right? Where people say like, oh, I need to work on rebound control. They need to work on rebound control. Like that is something that gets said often. So I hear parents say it, I hear coaches say it. When people ask, I want to practice rebound control, what are they actually asking to practice, Jamie? What do you think? Like, what's your opinion on that?
What my interpretation of that is me shooting pucks low on the ice and they're using their stick to put it in the corner. That's how I interpret it. And that is a skill, but for me, it's a low level skill. It's good for kids. Don't get me wrong. So in my brain, I understand a textbook like 15, 16, 17-year-old goalie, like AAA level, going to junior. But like, that's not, you should have that technical mastery by that age. For kids, this is a different thing. This is a completely different thing. But when someone asks, say, hey, like, what are we doing on rebound control today? Like, what's your kind of first thought about it?
The first thing I think of, honestly, now, and again, like I agree with you, I think that's a great example of a drill that works on the skills that relates to rebounds. But I think that like rebound control, and this is where I wanted to get to a definition of it, is a product of a bunch of things. So when someone tells me a goalie has bad rebound control, or they need to work on the rebound control, there's two things that pop in my mind. Is one, they're not getting into position quick enough, which is leading to incorrect save selection or imperfect save selection, which leads to rebounds. The second thing is they're not tracking pucks well enough.
Yeah,
which then tells me that leads to, again, and then the third thing can be like, again, just another thing of save selection. Incorrect save selection can lead to bad rebounds, right? Or imperfect save execution can lead to bad rebounds. So when someone says I need to work on rebound control, I need to figure out which one of those things is the thing to work on. And it might be all of it. Again, especially for younger kids, like you said, it could be all of that, right? It could be position, it could be save execution, it could be tracking.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, I think, that why it becomes such a big term and why everyone says it is you can say that 5 goalies have bad rebound control and not a single one of them can have it for the same. Right? And I think that's where we need to understand that. And I think it's hard for coaches who aren't goalies, who aren't seeing it that way. They just, they see the rebound product and they think there's a problem. But I'm not sure that's always true either. Right?
Yeah.
No, again, for example, I was working with, Brad. No, go.
No. Go ahead. Mine was kind of going to take us down a different path. So finish up your thought.
Yeah, I was going to say I had 2 examples of in the past month working with 2 goalies, same age, like U13 age. So young, definitely younger in minor hockey. And
12.
What'd you say?
So 12.
So 12, U13, Jamie, use the terms. And, both people had expressed that, we wanted to work on rebound. One of them was having an issue because they just were not getting to positions well enough. So getting to spots really wide, getting to spots not again, having a little bit of forward drift and it was leading to just them not being able to make stick saves or them stuff hitting their body and they're moving forward, right? But that's not bad rebound control. It's a positioning issue, right? Because the minute they stopped drifting, the minute they got their feet under themselves, there were no rebounds. They were just making saves or proper saves for what, the rebound control was about. Meanwhile, kind of exact goalie can be the other goal in the story. They were getting set to me and just those days where just eyes are not moving. And everyone has that at every level where goalies' eyes are tracking pucks, right? And so just stuff hitting them in the palm of the glove, hitting on the inside of the blocker. And it was just because they weren't tracking pucks. It wasn't, or they don't have bad rebound control. They were having issues tracking pucks, right? And this is where we had that conversation with Booch. And this is what I always come back to is rebound control in and of itself is the product of other things. It's not this specific individual skill, right? It's a bunch of other skills that come together to make it, right? It's an umbrella term. And I think that's really important to acknowledge that you're not just suddenly going to get better at rebound controls if you rebound control as a whole, if you're just practicing stick saves or just practicing blocker saves, right? That is, if you're constantly a block or rebound goal, you're putting these in slot over and over and over again, there's a myriad of reasons or a big list of reasons that could be positive.
Yeah. Right. When it comes to training, you'll see when people are training rebound control, I'm going to put this one in your blocker, put it to the corner. And we've talked about, especially with older goalies or mid U13 and up goalies, telling them where all the shots are going, how that can be detrimental to development. I'm definitely becoming more and more of a believer in that too, especially now that I work primarily with minor hockey goalies now. And they're so used to just going through the motions and so I almost never do shots where I tell them everything's a shot to score or a shot to create another option, and a lot of them just struggle because their processing ability isn't there. Yeah, and it's 100% right. And so rebound control, someone's going to be like, well, what about when you use your stick and put it in the corner? That itself is just the ability to use your stick. And we agree that itself is a skill, but you don't necessarily do that unless the shots are further enough away and you have time and there's not any sort of visual distractions to do that. And oftentimes, a lot of goalies are really bad at that because they're taught to over-rotate their upper body. And it ends up turning them so off square. And often, more times than not, it creates extra holes, opens them up, and it messes them up for following the rebound. There's a few other things that go into that too. Is on top of positioning, angle, squareness, depth, positioning, and tracking, there's also equipment, how your equipment plays a role into it, and also I don't want to say biomechanics. I'm probably just say a little bit. Well, anatomy is unchangeable. So your anatomy and then biomechanics. I shouldn't say unchangeable. Your anatomy is what it is, but then the biomechanics too. And I'm saying in that is if you actually when it comes to blocker position, and I threw this in the group chat, is when you think about our shoulders and elbows, we have that natural carrying angle of our elbows. So our elbows are already angled that way, and our wrists already sit a little bit in for the science nerds out there, ulnar deviation. So moving towards the outside. So because our wrists are already in that position, if we don't open up our blocker, which we shouldn't, we should keep the face towards the puck, it's already angled to put the puck into the corner or in along the goal line, parallel to the goal line. So by forcing it anymore, you actually make your blocker smaller, and you actually increase the risk for a rebound going to the glove side because it hits the inside of the palm. And so naturally, our blocker side is set up to control rebounds. And then when it comes to, and then we talk about the biomechanics position, we think about our shoulders trying to be over our hips when we go down and make saves. If we're leaning backwards, meaning something went wrong, typically in our save execution, rebounds pop straight up and they become a hassle. Yep. Whereas if we're leaning a little bit over our hips with our shoulders, rebound should end up in front of us where we can see it and control it. And then finally, when it comes to equipment, for me, the biggest one is boot break. And especially more goalies. So it's funny because like goalie equipment went from like the velocity, really soft pad days into the premier, so like stiffer. And now it's kind of transitioned back into that a little bit more of a softer boot break, but a stiffer thigh and knee.
Yep.
But with a soft boot, your butterfly will you'll end up having that 90-degree break between them, and that when a puck hits that, it goes
just a rebound stack right back out
of the slot.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I like the stiff boot because when it hit my toe, it would put it to the corner, and I wouldn't even have to try with it. But like with Vernon, he's so flexible too that when he does a butterfly, he legit makes a straight wall. And so if you're watching the YouTube version, his butterfly makes a straight wall. And so as the pucks hit his pads, they bounce straight to the slot. Whereas like Pietala or like myself, like mere mortals who can't do that with our butterfly, our pads are angled to put him in the corner.
Yeah.
And especially if you have like a 60-degree or a stiff boot, it puts in the corner too. So there's a lot of things that go into it. It's not just all of a sudden like, no, you're just, bad rebound control. Well, what is, like Beth said, like, what does that even mean? Are you bad positioning, bad tracking, like bad save execution? Like, or like, because I don't think I've ever met someone who's just like truly bad at controlling rebounds.
No, and that's so. I wanted two things. Want to jump right onto that. I agree. I think we have a recency and like an event bias in our head, which is like you see a shot hit a goalie in pads and it go in the slot, and people get this emotional reaction that, oh, that's like such a bad rebound. And yeah, it's not a great spot for a puck to end up. I agree, but it will happen to everyone who plays.
It doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad rebound.
No, if it's a 2-on-1 and someone hits you in the pad and put the puck in the slot, I go, yup, sure, that's what happens. 100%.
Yeah.
Like,
that's
just
like
gonna happen.
Or like if puck hits a goalie in the upper shoulder because they get a double flash screen and they go down and it just hits them, and then the rebound bounces like to the side and they're not able to get there. It's like, you can't see it. What do you want them to do?
Yeah, and so the context matters. But one thing I wanted to definitely go back to, Jim, you mentioned the blocker side thing. This has been the number one thing I've probably worked on with people this summer or coming off this offseason, is just how much people are taught to just punch and over-rotate that blocker. When I
over-rotate the blocker, it's the shoulders too. It's the shoulders.
Oh, it's everything. Everything flies.
Everything.
And so I know that it's been really, I've had a lot, I don't know if you've seen this, I've had a wide range of reaction where I will show a goalie, hey, your blocker face for you needs to rotate like 5 degrees and every single puck will go into the corner or the side. And I show them that and they are amazed by it and they love it, and it simplifies their hands a ton.
Well, I just have them say, like, what's the biggest part of your blocker? The face. What should be towards the puck? Well, the biggest parts of the face. Okay, don't move your blocker. Everything goes in the corner. I'm like, did you move your blocker? Or they go, no. I'm like, you know that you controlled every single rebound by actually not moving your blocker. Well, beforehand, you couldn't control anything because you were punching pucks and rotating your shoulders and just like, I don't know. I just don't get it. I don't get it.
So here's the flip side. So I agree, right? Like I have had a lot of really good results just trying to simplify people's hands, do less, right? Make better saves by doing less. But there's some people who I've worked with and other people who I've talked about this who have, again, like this, no, I need to turn it to put it in the corner. And it doesn't matter because, again, people, as much as we want to say people are logical and people are rational, it's not true. We're emotional.
I don't think we ever said that. Usually the opposite.
Well, right. So people are emotional, right? And so I will try to say like, hey, I actually just want you not to turn your hand at all, just like you said.
Yeah.
And I get a decent amount of pushback, and I like pushback from people when I'm working with them because I want to be challenged. I want them to be thinking. I like that. I think it's really healthy.
Me too.
But it's one of those things where I always find this like a really simple fix that seems pretty straightforward, and so I'm always a little caught off guard when there is pushback on it. So I'm just like, what do you mean? You just put 9 in the row in corner on straight slot shots or just off angle or slightly off angle shots. Simplify your hands. And anyways, I think that that's a hard thing to teach, especially now you're in minor hockey more. I'm excited to see kind of how you experience it, but trying to get goalies to simplify the game, especially as angles get smaller, I find that is one of the biggest contributors to good rebound control. Less extra movement, better rebound control. But bad angle shots, goalies, I don't know why. I don't know why goalies have tough times trying to be simple with it. Love to slide out of the net. What are your thoughts on that with rebound?
So I actually, when I do rebound control stuff, I start on sharp angles, not like RVH sharp, but sharp angles. And then I have that like delayed video feedback app. And so I do a bunch of shots and I say, come watch, look how little net there is. And then I go from there because I need them to conceptually understand and to visually see it. So far, I actually haven't had a ton of pushback with my goalies. I want to credit it and say maybe I'm explaining it well, but I don't think that's the answer. I think maybe my goalies have just been smart goalies. I have been getting a lot of this is different than what my goalie coach has said, which is fine.
Yeah.
I want to just explain it. And does that make sense? Is that something you want to try? But yeah, it's just a lot of like, I just call it like, I don't even know, like just playing kind of willy-nilly is kind of how I kind of describe it, where there's like, that you don't have to do that. Well, but it feels right to do that, but it's not actually helping it. And most times it's hurting. So I do say like, you're kind of playing like willy-nilly with your hands. Another thing that goes to it too, this is typically we don't talk about like rebound control with a glove because that's like almost always a tracking thing where it's like, you're just not catching it in the pocket. However, when you hold your glove at fingers at 12 o'clock, again, I had this with a goalie and they could not catch a puck. And they're like, why am I not catching it? I'm like, well, you're actually tracking it pretty well. Like, I'll give you credit. Like your eyes are good. Like I said, just remember, like your glove's not really, the break, your glove's not designed for your fingers to be here. Some breaks are, yours is not. Also, you are just snapping your wrist. And
Karate
snap your
I would
wrist.
say karate chopping puck.
Oh, I'm stealing that. You're karate chopping pucks, and that's causing just extra movement, and you're end up punching it. So I just told the goalie, I was like, okay, go from like 12 o'clock and just go to like 1 or 2 and just see how that feels.
That's what I think.
Weird. And then it just made every single save. And I'm like, okay, so like I didn't make you a better goalie. You didn't become a better goalie. You just adjusted something and it works better for you. So let's get comfortable with that. Does that make sense? And so I think also when it comes to glove side, just like finger position, the old like Ben Scrivens, it's not ideal for catching pucks.
To go along with that, this is another good glove tip that I think people listening. So this one's actually from my boss. So shout out Carson Bird goaltender. He's always a big one on making sure, again, like same thing, no 12 o'clock nonsense. Let's get in that 1 to 2 though, but also just that slight like forward angular tilt because the puck comes from the ice.
Yes.
Right. So if your glove is perfectly flat, like if you think it's perfectly straight facing the chest of a shooter, you've limited your relative pocket angle as well.
Yeah.
And so he's always really good at, and obviously as pucks get closer, your angle shifts down to smother the puck. But like that's something still to consider from shots from like 25, 30 feet, is that you shouldn't have a slight forward tilt. So again, when this all ties into this idea of rebound control, is it your stance? So is it your positioning? Is it your puck tracking? Is it your ability to get set? Is it your feet being too wide? Right? Like there's so many things that go into this idea of rebound control that like you mentioned before, I think it's a media buzzword that doesn't, or just like a general hockey buzzword now that doesn't capture all the time what's going on. It captures the product, right? Which is like a rebound probably going to a spot, normally the stick of the other team that a coach or a person doesn't like, right?
Yeah.
But there is sometimes that failure to appreciate all the pieces that go into it. And so for the goalies out there listening to that one, if you feel like you're struggling with your rebounds, go through these things that we've talked about. Break down, are you getting set, right? Are you tracking pucks well? Are you making the right save choice? Like, are you, like Jamie, like you said, are you doing that body twist, arcing stick save that drives me crazy? Actually, can we soapbox this? Stick saves, like your stick should not curve. Like again, people teach stick saves in a butterfly where like the stick follows the curve of the crease. Which is, yeah, exactly. Like this, there can be a slight backwards angulation if you want to say like towards the post, But people who make really good stick saves kind of stay pretty lateral with their stick. Like they hit
It's a
almost
wrist. It's a
perfectly
rotation
flat.
of the wrist. It's a rotation
Yeah,
of the wrist.
Yeah, your wrist moves, your body doesn't turn, right?
Yes.
You're not like opening your shoulder back, you're not turning your hips back. The stick just kind of meets the puck almost like, I would say, at like a 15-degree back angle rather than this like whole opening.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's like that's such a classic like 1970s goalie demo video where they're making.
I know. It's so funny because I actually have to go through that almost with all my goalies at one point because they'll give up that goal under their blocker arm from swinging too much.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, and I have like a series of videos like pre-made where it's just like, watch this because I'm just too tired of explaining it. I explained this a million times. I made a video about it. Please watch this video. If you have any questions, let me know.
Well, it's funny because again, like goalies will go in a butterfly and their stick arc will just wrap around their butterfly. That's how they make stick saves. It wraps to the toe of their pad and then back to the front. And it's like, if you took the stick out of the equation there and asked a goalie to make a blocker save like that, you would never ask a goalie to make a blocker save back towards the toe ever. Right?
Yeah, I agree.
And on a straight shot, you would not be like, oh, okay, turn and rotate that.
One of the things too when it comes to rebound control.
No, that's just what it is. That's my stick save so.
Oh no, I've been on that soapbox so many times. I'm glad you said it, not me. But one thing when it comes, like, think about like hockey, not like players, like skill players nowadays when they're like pass off the pads. There's a reason on the rush why a pass off the pad is such a good play, because it goes back to what we said. It's so hard, you can't actually control it. And I don't know if the players don't actually know that. They just know a pass off the pad's a good option. But like, if they hit you in the mid, just like shin to knee area, there's nothing you can really do. What are you gonna do? Like, yes, it goes past your stick, so it moves too fast for you to actually move your stick, so you can't make the save with your stick. If you're not ultra flexible, but if you're just a normal mobility goalie, that's gonna hit your knee and bounce out at an angle where the shooter wants it to, like, and then so people will be like, oh, you'll get that one with your stick, but you can't. You can't. Just like you can't cognitively, we talk about this, like tracking with the gloves. You can't always just be like, yes, that one hit the, like, oh, you can watch that and you're like, no, you can't. It's just that pattern recognition again that we go through, we talk about a million times. So I think we've kind of been beating the dead horse here. So let's sum it up. I don't know if you have any final points, but we can sum this up.
Yeah, I think, I mean, here, I'll kind of leave this up. I don't have anything else to add a ton there. I think what I really want to hammer home, is that rebound control is a product of other various parts of being a good player. Yes. And if someone tells you, or if you think you have bad rebound control, or if you think you have good rebound control, whatever that is, it is something that is a sum of its parts. There is a link in that chain that leads to a good outcome or a bad outcome. And so if you want to work on your rebound control, it's identifying what link it is that leads to you struggling in rebounds. And again, importantly, it might only be rebounds in some situations, right? It might not, you might not have bad rebound control. You might struggle with a part of your game that leads to undesired rebounds in certain situations, right? In some of those, and like you mentioned before, and I think this is your kind of thing, in some of those situations, the rebound is not the thing we're most concerned about. Right? Like, it's okay to give up rebounds on breakaways, on backdoor 2-on-1. Those are all situations where rebounds should happen because that's not the primary focus. You don't have time or space to worry about it.
Oh, one-timers from the slot. Yeah, I want you to control your rebound. No. What are you doing after the save? That's what I want to know. How is your positioning and tracking during the save? How is it off the save? Were you tracking the puck off your body? Were you getting up the proper leg? Was everything moving the proper direction? That's what I want to know, because you can't control it. That's actually a good clip, and maybe I'll throw it. What I'll do is, if you're listening on Spotify or any other podcast platform, if you go to the YouTube video at the very end, I'm going to add in a clip. Actually, no, we'll get demonetized. I can't. I will put it as an accessory clip on the YouTube page, and it's of my boy Phoenix Copley giving up a rebound off a short, like a power play one-timer. And someone sent that to me and said, how should he control this rebound? And I said, well, he kind of over pushed, but he still made a really good save, but he over pushed, so he was slightly off angles, so he wasn't able to get back for the rebound, but he made the first save. So, and even if he was in position, there's no guarantee that he controls that rebound either. So I'll add that when this podcast drops Tuesday, September 12th. I will. That's pretty good. I will. I'll also add an additional clip uploaded publicly on YouTube, because otherwise the podcast, NHL doesn't like it, and the podcast will get demonetized. And like I said, if you guys want me to have Ben on the payroll, we need to be monetized so that I can get that 10 cents of ad revenue.
Hey, every little bit counts. But yeah, that's true. I think I wanted to have something. I'm happy with this. I wanted this as a reference point to go back to, because like I said, rebound control is a big product of something. And so let's not just say a goalie has bad rebound control. Let's not just say if a goalie gives up a goal off a rebound that they automatically have bad rebound control, right? Just go watch an NHL hockey game, count how many rebounds go into a quote unquote dangerous area during a game. It's a lot. And those are the best people. Rebounds are going to happen. It's part of the game, right? It's don't let in pucks off your belly into the slot from a clear shot from the blue line. That's a problem. But
yeah.
Beyond that, there's a little more detail.
Yeah. Understand the nuances, understand, save the difficulty and variability of different shots and situations. And again, hockey is not black and white. We go over this a million times, but thank you for listening, for watching. Share, like, comment, subscribe. Again, it does help. We are back consistently posting for now, and hopefully this car does not shut down. If you are in the Grand Rapids or Western Michigan area and want to skate, reach out to me directly via Instagram. Love to skate with you. And if you happen to work at a co-work facility, my internet at my current apartment is very bad, and I could use an office to film things. So please reach out to me. Ben, what other things would you like to ask for?
I just everyone's manifest some good vibes. Shout out to all my goalies who are playing games, and everyone, let's have a nice start to the season.
I like that. Let's have a great start to the season. Let's stay positive. It's a long season, so keep grinding through. And again, if you have questions, always reach out to us, because we're answering questions nonstop via email, DM. Actually, DM us or email us, probably the best way to get a hold of us.
That's it, Jamie. Until next time.
Until next week, Ben.